Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love the watches you see here, they are all for sale. We're waking up with watches, and my email address is still tmosso@thewatchbox.com for all of your purchase and pricing questions. Ask for extra photos, details of boxes and papers. We can even tell you original sale dates. Reach out to tmosso@thewatchbox.com if you wish to trade or sell. We love to trade a watch that you're not going to wear for one that you will wear. We'll get you back into a watch you'll love for the long term, or we can even get you out of one or more watches, as we love to buy entire collections. One watch or your entire collection of vintage Patek Philippe. No upper limit on value paid. We pay cash, we pay fast, we walk you through the process, we make it a no-brainer. To buy, trade, or sell, reach out to tmosso@thewatchbox.com. All right, in 2013, Omega launched the Omega Speedmaster Moonwatch Dark Side of the Moon. It was a full black ceramic Moonwatch for the modern era, if you will. Bigger, bolder, more technology, automatic winding. The next year, the gray side of the moon was arguably even better, and for 2016, Omega went full exotic with the gray side of the moon Meteorite dial, featuring a Sedna red gold bezel, a full polished and satinated gray ceramic case, and a genuine meteorite iron dial. Note the use of matte finish on the hands and the indices. This watch is all about surprise and delight details. And because it is 44.25 millimeters, you know it's large, but it's only 50 millimeters lug to lug. And on my wrist, wears just fine. We'll zoom out a little bit, get some perspective from distance. My wrist is 16 centimeters in circumference. This wears quite comfortably. So if your wrist is my size, game on. You're going to find this is a great fit, and it's because it is short lug to lug. We'll do a quick loom shot, get a sense of this watch in the dark. One of the hallmarks, the original gray side, was its loomed crown insert, and that returns here. Twin register chrono dial. Note that it's actually a tri-register chrono, as we have superimposed hands for chrono hours and minutes. Now there's a lot of features here. First, you've got this time zone function, so you can actually change your time zone and even jump east or west across the international date line, jumping the date forward or backwards. Pull it out all the way, and you activate a hacking or stop seconds function. And I will show you something else that's very cool. Vertical clutch. Seamless engagement. Column wheel, visible through a skeletonization in the bridge. Twin barrels in series, outstanding for a flat torque plateau throughout the power band of the watch for consistent timekeeping. Full balance bridge and free-sprung balance for shock resistance. A watch that is virtually amagnetic with balance staffs, silicone hairspring, and anti-magnetic escapement. I don't know how well you could see it, but there's a second bridge under the balance for the coaxial escapement, a direct and indirect impulse. Invention of the great British watchmaker George Daniels, it is tangential rather than sliding friction, which improves power reserve, precision, and reduces maintenance requirements. In other words, this watch is simply stacked. You've got your hacking seconds right there, and a beautifully balanced dial thanks to the coaxial hands. It looks like a twin register. We have a ceramic insert within the rose gold bezel. This watch simply chock-a-block with features. And take note, not every version of this watch has a full deployant clasp. Some have pin buckles. This one does have the clasp, which is a significant upcharge option. Now, let's say your budget's a little bit more modest and maybe your wrist a bit more slight. Well, this is what I would recommend. In 2018, Cartier updated its longest-running watch series, the Santos de Cartier. Fantastic piece, but it lacked maybe the overtly sporty vibe that it needed to be a true sports watch. Another thing it lacked was a loom. That was fixed for this 2019 redesign of the dial that incorporates luminescent hands, metallized Roman numerals, and a lovely metallic blue gradient fade dial. Note that this is the latest generation Santos, and you know because it has this little waterfall design that flows from the bezel down the bracelet. Now, of course, the Santos, originally launched in 1904, was designed by Louis Cartier for his friend Alberto Santos Dumont, who was a pioneering aviator. Not heavier than air or winged aviation at that point, but airships, dirigibles, basically blimps. And so to operate one of those craft, you needed both hands. They were cantankerous and unwieldy, and so it wasn't possible to resort to the pocket. As a result, it was decided that the best way to build a watch for this application was to put it on a band and then put the band around the wrist. So when you have your hand on a control, you can still look side scroll at the watch. And thus was born the world's first ever pilot's watch, the first Cartier wristwatch, and one of the first wristwatches of any kind. Now, it's bigger today, but it's not big. It's 9.6 millimeters thick. Across the case, it's about 38.9 millimeters, not including the crown guards and the crown. And then it's 47.5 millimeters from lug to lug. You could wear it on a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference. And while it's technically the Santos large, it really wears more like a medium watch. It also comes with a brilliant bracelet system. This watch comes with a second strap in blue leather. If you want to swim, use the bracelet. It is 100 meters water resistant. It has a manufacturer movement. It is also 1,200 Gauss anti-magnetic. Now, there is the quick switch system, a quick release seat buckle like pull tab on the bottom there. And then we also have something called Smart Link, which frankly is brilliant. I don't know if I have enough nail here, but even with my minimal nail, I think I could probably release one of these individual links to show you guys how this system works. See how the retaining pin of the bracelet pops out? See that right there? Now, I can go in, I can pull that out, and break the bracelet using only my fingers. Then I can do it again, remove another link, put them back together. It's that simple. This is SmartLink, and they're really smart. They realize that if they let you pull this bar out of the link, you're gonna lose it. And so you can't pull it all the way out of the link. See, solid case back on the back. It's got a Cartier manufacturer automatic with a 42-hour power reserve, stop seconds, and a quick set date. It's called the 1847 MC. And then a beautiful watch that is very versatile, bracelet and strap, quick switch, smart link, anti-magnetic, swimmable, perfect, with a heritage and a history that is unmatched. The Cartier name stands alongside the likes of Patek, Philippe, and Rolex in prestige, but fortunately, it's also a much more accessible point of entry to luxury watchmaking. Speaking of names that carry prestige in watchmaking, the watchmaker's watchmaker, the supplier to the elite, Jaeger-LeCoultre, always gets a mention. And for a long time, from 1989 onward, JLC always had a Perpetual calendar alarm watch in the lineup. And so in 2005, the second generation Grande Reveil was born. Like many watches of its era, it's quite large at 43 millimeters in steel. And I'm going to put it on my wrist now so you get a good sense of how it fits. It's a big watch, no doubt, but I could wear it. And you could see that it fits just fine. Large, no margin, but at the same time, it's a fit for me. If your wrist is 16 centimeters circumference or up, game on. If your wrist is smaller, look at the old Grande Memovox and the original 1989 Grande Reveil to get many of these features. Though, notably, not all of these features. One feature that sets this apart from any of the other JLC Perpetual calendar alarms is that you have a dual mode alarm that can ring or vibrate. You've got the IWC Kurt Klaus Perpetual calendar system with moon phase, so just by indexing the trigger to advance the calendar, everything moves in sync and stays correctly synchronized. So if you just set the correct date, even the moon phase will synchronize correctly, which means you don't have to look it up. It'll also handle the changeover of the year, end of the decade, and there's even slides available to change the display of the century. Now, it is a loomed watch, not hugely luminescent, but maybe surprisingly so for something that is generally considered to be an oversized dress watch. On the reverse side, a solid gold medallion with the master 1,000 hours control serial number of the watch, meaning it went through a rigorous 41-day test of durability, winding efficiency, power reserve, water resistance, and chronometry. And you can see at center we have these lovely half-frosted alpha hands. So let me see if I can pinpoint the alarm activation, and then you'll get to hear it alarm in ringing and vibrating. It'll go for longer if you wind it more. But you can see how it sounds like a 1950s or 60s Memovox when it's in vibrate mode, and then it sounds like a modern singing, ringing Memovox when you put it in alarm mode. So in alarm, dual mode function, Perpetual calendar, fully synchronized, moon phase, Kurt Klaus system, automatic winding, This is a watch that is full of surprises. It's got a full clasp too. That's JLC's second generation folding clasp. This watch, a fantastic combination of features for very reasonable money. Fascinating collaboration here. Not the first, not the second, but the third collaboration between the watch blog Hodinkee and Ressence. Watches designed in Belgium, but made in Switzerland. This is the Ressence Type 1 Slim HOD3 in matte DLC-coated grade 5 titanium. It's only 10.9 millimeters thick, inside two different mechanisms. At the bottom, a high-grade ETA 2892A2, which is responsible for the slimness. Previously, Ressence used the 2824. And then it has the ROCS module, which is a 107-piece movement atop a movement. The dial has been skeletonized and blackened, and you'll note that it is a regulator dial, as we have separate seconds, minutes, and hours displayed. There's a little day of the week indicator right there. And then a feature originally launched on the Type 1 Square is the case back winding and setting rotor. So there's no crown on these watches. You can see they have a distinctive seamless lenticular form, and I can adjust everything. Everything rotates relative to its own axis as well as relative to the center of the dial. So for example, if I want to read the time here, I can read the time as being 8 o'clock, and then I have to ask, is it 8 o'clock in the evening or in the morning? Well, because the day of the week indicator moves in a clockwise direction, and the two hollow arcs are Saturday and Sunday, that would be Friday, and then that would be the tail end of Thursday. So this is 8 p.m. on a Thursday. We'll do a quick lume shot so you can get a general sense. It has a surprising amount of luminescence, something you might not have expected, given how matte and black and sort of California look the whole thing is, to use a custom Volkswagen term. An easy watch to wear. It's feather light, being made entirely of titanium and sapphire, so throw it on the wrist. Very, very comfortable. Very attractive. I could recommend it for a wrist as small as 14 centimeters in circumference. It easily fits underneath a cuff. There's your case back design. All right, Patek Philippe. Back in 2016, they launched a watch that was bigger but not big. Bigger than previous Perpetual calendar modules. You could see that this one, 39 millimeters in diameter in white gold, is a beautiful balance between traditional grace and modern wrist presence. Now, this is the 5327G in white gold, blue sunburst metallic dial, white gold foil hands, Perpetual calendar with a moon phase, Breguet style white gold Arabic numerals, and a dimple style minutes track outboard. On the reverse side, we have a 240Q, and this is the caliber 240 micro rotor that was first launched in 1977. It's generally featured on more upscale Patek Philippe watches like flagship complications. Now, it's got three benefits. One, it's as thin as a manual wind watch. Two, it has the open and admirable case-back view unobstructed, just like a manual wind watch, but then it also gives you the utility and practicality of automatic winding on a watch that has a rather complex calendar system, so that's a good thing. Of course, this being a perpetual calendar, it doesn't have to be touched until the year 2100, can deal with leap years and irregular length months. The scalloped hollows in the case band are beautiful, as are the arcing tapered lugs, and then there's a lovely concave bezel profile to visually thin the watch out. It is accurate per Patek Philippe to about -3 +2 seconds per 24 hours, and the finishing is substantially manual and very attractive. We have a matching white gold folding clasp, and this watch, 39 millimeters in diameter, beautiful and very comfortable. And you can see that the curvature of the lug is a big part of that. So this watch is suitable for a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference, and it easily slides under a cuff. A great way to get into a flagship complication from Patek Philippe. Going all the way back to the 1920s, wristwatch perpetual calendars at Patek Philippe have been an institution at a brand that is itself one of the great institutions in high horology watchmaking. When you buy a perpetual calendar Patek Philippe, you are buying something straight from the heart of the catalog, not peripheral, not an experiment, not transient, but a forever watch. Okay, a Lange und Sohne. Surprisingly, this isn't the final watch. I usually reserve the most spectacular watch for the finale. This isn't the ultimate, nor is it even the penultimate watch, so you get a sense of just how spectacular our finale will be. This is, however, the latest platinum Datograph flyback. Flyback chronograph, Grande dot. You can see there's a pusher adjuster for that date over at the 10 o'clock station on the dial. The feel of the pusher adjuster is as compelling as the tactile sensations of the column wheel chrono. And surprisingly, this is a fairly sporty dress chronograph for a couple of reasons. One being the tachymeter scale, often considered to be a feature characteristic of racers' watches or coaches' watches. We've also got the flyback capability, which is great for timing events that occur in rapid succession, like the completion and start of a lap. And then, still more surprises, it's actually pretty well loomed, which you don't always assume on a dress watch. The dial, although blackened, is made of solid sterling silver, and so is the tachymeter scale outboard. The frame for the date, the hands, the indices, all white gold. Lovely alpha-style hands at center. We have instantaneous jumping minutes. We have a stop seconds function should you wish to stop this watch and synchronize it to a reference time. Full platinum case, immensely heavy, deeply impressive. And then on the reverse side, we have caliber L9516, so the sixth revision of the landmark movement that came out with the debut Dato back in 1999. This was the movement that put Switzerland on notice and is generally credited with ending the era of customer Abausch calipers at Patek Philippe. Now, what makes this substantially different than previous versions is that first, it has a little power reserve indicator. That was new for this 2012 redesign. The redesign was 41 millimeters to the original's 39, and it gained this little power reserve indicator which says up and down. And then it also gained much more power reserve, going from 36 hours up to 60 hours. We still have a column wheel and lateral clutch. We have finishing that includes stripes, engine turning, freehand engraving. Look at everything that turns black as I tilt it through the light. That is black polish finished with a zinc plate or diamond paste. Deeply impressive. A slow beating, aesthetically pleasing. 18,000 vibration per hour free sprung, variable inertia balance adjusted in 5 positions with an overcoil hairspring. Note the banknote scrolling and volutes on the balance cock. No two of these are exactly alike because they are done freehand. Notice that we have on the clutch itself, which is made of steel, bevels, satination, and both exterior points and interior angles where bevels converge. Deeply impressive stuff. German silver bridges and plates, nickel copper zinc, giving it that golden hue. And then the chronograph components are steel, which is why they're silvery and bright. We have both polished and fired screws, so silver polished and blued. And we have golden chaton cups holding the pivot jewels, a nod to the pocket watch era of watchmaking in Glashütte, where this watch is manufactured. Across the border, actually several borders, come to think of it, and we have de Bethune. In the heart of French-Swiss watchmaking country, we have L'Auberson, up in the mountains, so close to France that when I went there, my phone switched over to a French data plan, and they make watches like this. A 2018 debut, this is the DB28 steel wheels. Remember I talked about black polish on tiny parts of that Lange? How about the whole damn dial? You could see that optically smooth specular finish that turns black from every angle except one, but there's more. This is the steel wheels because you can see the skeletonized mainspring barrels, the ratchet wheels atop them, and even the bridge over them. Note that it has been skeletonized, opened up, it's been deeply engraved on its top and beveled beautifully on its edge. We have black polish of the main plate cap, the center bridge for the hands, the balance bridge itself. Note that it's not just black polished, but fully rounded in black polished, Grubel-Forsey style. Not just Grubel-Forsey style, we have de Bethune style in its own right with many conventions seen nowhere else. Look at the little bevel gears that are used to turn this spherical moon phase display. 1/2 blued steel, 1/2 white palladium. Set it once and you don't have to reset it for 122 years. The hairspring profile is patented. The blue titanium and white gold mass balance is patented. The twin self-adjusting barrels are patented. You cannot accidentally overwind them. And it has 6 days of power reserve, which you can track using this elaborately finished power reserve mechanism on the reverse side of the watch. But wait, there's more. With the 1, 2, 3 shock protection springs on the parachute system, triple parachute, it is not just able to better resist professional athletics, which these watches can and have survived, but also to more rapidly recenter the balance staff in its pivot jewel to improve timekeeping, not just durability. Note that there's a fired blue titanium chaptering that sits underneath the spherical cabochon of titanium inside a serrated track that acts as the scale for reading hours and minutes. Also note a feature brought over from the DB26 Perpetual calendar, sapphire hands. This hour hand here is actually blue ceramic parts, including a cap that goes around the outside, and then sapphires. You can always see the steel wheels below. Also, floating spring-loaded variable geometry ergonomic floating lugs. These are also patented. When you buy a de Bethune, you're paying for the watch, not to enrich the owners of the brand. And my company owns this brand. I guarantee you, I'm not driving any Ferraris or Lamborghinis because we picked up this brand. All the money spent on the watches is money well spent investing in the future. So dial, case, and movement all made in-house. The assembly and bluing of the spherical moon phase, done in-house. Firing of titanium, polishing of titanium, done in-house. The balance, proprietary. This is the 10th patented balance. Denis Flageolet, the watchmaking genius behind the brand, has patented 10 distinct balances. He scraps his old design and implements a new one every time he finds a way to reduce the effect of aerodynamic drag, the effects of temperature change on timing, and to more perfectly center mass in the rim of the balance. Throwing the watch on the wrist, you could see that, well, it wears nicely. It's thin. It's only 11.4 millimeters thick, and the watch itself is 42.6 millimeters in diameter. The original DB28 won the Aiguille d'Or, or Best Picture, at the Oscars of Watchmaking, the GPHG, back in 2010, and this watch carries on in its tradition. Super exclusive. De Bethune has only just crossed over 3,000 watches produced since its 2002 inception. That said, I have something even more spectacular. Let's see if you guys can guess. Can you guess? Do you know? Are you willing to wager? You're about to find out. The charismatic, instantaneous, full jump of the Lange Zeitwerk. This, launched in 100 pieces in platinum for 2010, is the Zeitwerk Luminous. Note, not Lumen. Back in 2010, they weren't using that nomenclature. Technically, the Zeitwerk Lumen is a relatively recent rose gold model, but this was the beginning of the Lumen series, with the combination of fully luminescent time indications and a smoked sapphire dial, whose purpose is to allow the energizing of the lume on the discs, so when they jump into the apertures, they're at least partially energized. It's a beautifully balanced watch, power reserve indicator, small seconds, and you know, we may as well watch that bewitching full jump one more time. Winding a Zeitwerk is one of the most awe-inspiring tactile experiences in watch ownership. The mainspring has so much force. So as you wind it, you can really feel that power, that torque, that force pushing back on you. And so you've also seen that it's bidirectionally settable and that it has a hacking seconds function. Now this is the original Zeitwerk 42mm case. While it is remarkably meaty platinum, it's still the same size as the original models, which means it fits on my wrist and actually quite well. I think you could wear this watch on a wrist as small as 15 centimeters circumference. It's really not that big or even that thick, considering what it is. We have on the reverse side the legendary caliber L043. Let's get a little bit closer and take it in with the focus hopefully optimized for the distance I'm going to hold it. Now here's what's going on. There is a stop works. It prevents you from overwinding the watch. It also prevents the watch from continuing to attempt to run once there's no longer enough energy to jump the time display. So you can see there's this time bridge in steel, and on one side is a little pinwheel that acts as an air brake to slow down the flow of energy from the jump of the minutes all the way through a second locking lever. There's two third wheels with a hairspring between them. Every time this unlocks and turns the upper third wheel, the hairspring acts as an accumulator that stores 1 minute's worth of energy to directly run the escapement. So even though this mainspring has enough force to destroy the escapement, not only does it not do so, but this watch achieves constant force for its full 36-hour manual wind power reserve. So just wind at the same time every day, and despite the huge amount of fluctuation of force through the barrel, it will always beat at a consistent rate with constant amplitude, thanks to this remontoire system giving us constant delivery of force. And of course, Lange also uses the fusée and chain, but it inaugurated the use of the remontoire system because so much is packed into this movement, there wouldn't have been room for the fusée and chain, and so the remontoire system was deployed. That's why Lange has two in-house constant force devices. Note freehand engraving of both the balance cock as well as the cock for the escape wheel, which has been black polished on its top. We have an overcoil hairspring, a free-sprung balance, a 2.5 hertz beat rate, plenty of German silver, and I particularly love the solarization on the crown and ratchet wheels. You could see winding this watch is one of the great pleasures in all of watch ownership, and one side of the mainspring is actually anchored to the base plate of the movement because it has so much force and tension. A beautiful watch that is a debatably desirable serial number, depending on your perspective. I find it humorous. And of course, the watch, no excuse finish, something approaching the very best available in one of its most distinctive packages. This is one of the most sought-after Lange watches of all time. If you love this watch, or any of the watches in today's show, reach out to me. I am tmosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.